It's 1885 and a writer wakes from a nightmare, drenched in sweat. Gripped by a disturbing vision, he spends the next 6 days in a manic writing spree, completing a whole book so terrifying his wife burned the first draft. This is Robert Louis Stevenson on a cocaine-fueled binge, writing the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Which raises a juicy question: do drugs help or hurt creativity? Steve Jobs said his LSD trips were among the most important things he ever did, shaping the way he saw the world. Jim Morrison thought heroin fueled his art until it killed him at 27. So is there a link between creativity and drugs? And if so, is it a good one? Studies show that creative people use drugs more, but that doesn't mean that drugs cause their creativity. Maybe creative types are just more open-minded, more curious, more willing to experiment. Maybe it's coincident. Or maybe some drugs do open doors, forging wild connections and unlocking those eureka moments. I've read a ton of books and articles on this. I've also had a full creative life, and I've experimented with drugs. I don't claim to have a grand theory, but I do think there's a more nuanced take that not a lot of people talk about. So first, let's cover the basics. Creativity has two stages, right? Inspiration, having a breakthrough idea, and perspiration, grinding through the work to bring that idea to life. Steve Jobs had the idea for the iPhone, but it took 5 brutal years of perspiration to make it come to life. Most people wildly overestimate inspiration and underestimate perspiration. But they're different mental gears and just different parts of the brain. Today's neuroscience points to something called the default mode network. So when you're daydreaming or really open-minded, aka inspiration, the default mode network is active. But when you're locked into a focused, goal-driven task, i.e. perspiration, the default mode network is really relaxed. It calms down. Now match that to what we know about drugs. Psychedelics like mushrooms, they shrink the default mode network, sparking surreal, deeply connected thoughts. Francis Crick, co-discoverer of DNA, credited LSD for helping him see the double helix structure. So psychedelics may boost inspiration. Meanwhile, stimulants like cocaine or amphetamines, they jack up the default mode network, fueling wild energy and repetitive focus. Thomas Edison famously sipped Vin Mariani, a coca leaf wine, while inventing pretty much everything. So stimulants may boost perspiration, which means that asking, do drugs make you creative, is kind of the wrong question. Different stages of creativity need different brain states, and different drugs tweak different brain states. From my own experience, I can tell you I loathe cocaine, amphetamines. I don't need the manic energy to create, I just need clarity. Although Andy Warhol seems to have thrived on uppers. Psychedelics like mushrooms, though, different story. Like Jean-Paul Sartre, who credited a mescaline trip with shaping his philosophy of consciousness. I've had vivid, life-changing visions, like the dream of building an art gallery and dedicating my life to creativity while tripping on mushrooms. Which brings me to Dr. Robin Carhart-Davis and his studies here in London. He scanned people's brains before and during a psilocybin trip, mushrooms. Before the trip, basic, ordered, predictable patterns. But during, swirling, interconnected fireworks, parts of the brain that usually never speak to each other or suddenly networked like crazy, you can almost see the creativity happening. Even cooler, the only other brains that look like this are newborn infants and highly trained Buddhist monks. And yes, I can vouch, it felt like seeing everything everywhere all at once. Now, we haven't spoken about marijuana yet. Carl Sagan said weed boosted his creativity, and some studies have shown that THC can boost divergent thinking, a part of inspiration. Personally, when I'm high, I often feel like I'm having these cosmic revelations, but the next day, they usually seem kind of silly. So while pot relaxes me, I don't find it very insightful. So here's my final take, if you'll permit a digression, borrowed from a yoga teacher of mine. With yoga, the idea is to lean into discomfort, strengthening both your physical and emotional muscles. If you push too hard, you get hurt. But if you avoid discomfort, you don't grow. Sometimes we need to push, Sometimes we need to take it easy. And deep down, both groups know who they are. I think it's the same with drugs and creativity, that some drugs might spark inspiration and others might boost your energy, but the vast majority of artists, inventors, thinkers across history did not rely on drugs to make their magic. If you're curious to explore, maybe that's part of your creative journey. Just be safe. If you're nervous or skeptical, listen to that. Don't feel pressured. And I think both groups know who they are. Like the character's transformation in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, creativity is complex, a delicate balance between two very different energies. The real art might be knowing when to walk away. That's my thoughts. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.